everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Elise if you're new here, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a book on haul. I'm going to be moving in the near future, and I have a bunch of books that I've either read and DNF'd, read and disliked, or just checked out the first couple chapters, decided it wasn't for me, that I don't want to move with me. So I am going to go through that stack with you today and then take you along with me to some little free libraries in my area and hopefully get these books off to a home that will appreciate them a little bit more. I'm going to see if I can hold all of them up for you, but oh gosh, they're falling already. There's a stack of 23 books here that I'm holding up with just my shoulder that I'm going to go through for you today. Some of them I have very specific reasons for unhauling them, and some of them it's just because, again, I think that they won't be for me, and I would rather get them to a home where someone will read them, because not every book is going to be a book I'm going to enjoy, and I would love to spend the time that I do dedicate to reading in my lifetime to books that I will enjoy. So I'm going to set these down and then jump into the first few books that I'm unhauling. I have a friend that works at a bookstore, and they do get sent a good handful of ARCs, and every once in a while they just have too many ARCs in their back stock that the staff hasn't taken, so she will give them to me and I will blindly take them. And I have realized to stop doing that because they're not all books that are to my taste or books that I'm going to enjoy. So I try to just be a little bit more mindful about what I do take nowadays. But a good chunk of those are ARCs that I was given by her. So I obviously can't resell those or anything. And I have checked with friends and family to see if they want any of these. So far, the answer's been no, so that's why they're going to a little free library. But the first one that I will be unhauling is Room by Emma Donoghue. While this is a very highly regarded book, I ultimately don't think it's going to be for me. I read the first couple chapters, and from my understanding, it's told from the perspective of a very young child undergoing some pretty tough circumstances, and I have a really hard time with things happening to children in books, even though this is a story that I believe has a happy ending and is a very, harrowing and triumphant story. I think that I'd have a really hard time getting through it, and I don't always love having a child in the narrative voice. So I'm going to give this to a new home. Next is one that I started reading and DNF'd. That is Lavender House by Lev A.C. Rosen. This book felt like it was perfectly catered to so many of my interests. It's a queer historical murder mystery set at a gothic manor, which are all things that I love in a good book, especially in a good mystery. And I just felt a little bit disconnected while reading this. I DNF'd it a little while ago, so it's not too fresh in my memory, but I think I remember the dialogue feeling a little bit clunky and ultimately just not being able to get into the story. So I know that this is a book someone else is really going to love that I think will work for a different type of reader. Another one that I started and DNF'd is How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. This is a book where I was interested in the setup of the story, but once I got into it, I just couldn't really jive with the narrative voice, and it was enough of a disconnect that I knew that I didn't really want to continue. I will say too that I am pretty ruthless about DNFing. I hold my reading time very sacred, and unless I purchased a book or a friend really wants me to read it, I find there's no harm done by DNFing. So I have no problem. Next is Beep by Bill Rohrbach. This is a book about a monkey. And I think this is one that just gets a little bit absurdist. I read the first couple chapters and I just don't think it's going to be for me. This next one I bought for, I think, 25 cents in a Friends of the Library sale, and that is Death of a Telenovela Star. I did read it and I really disliked it. I just didn't find it to be very well written, and it's pretty tiny. So because of that, I just felt like the story really wasn't fleshed out. It also felt like we were dropped into the middle of an established narrative, but we weren't given any of the information to follow along. So I couldn't find if this was part of a series, or if it was the first one. So that just made for kind of a weird reading experience because the story was told like I knew the character already and I didn't. Yeah, that kind of factored into the writing not working for me. This next one I won in a raffle box, and I am going to be keeping the rest of the books in that raffle box. I've read one of them already, The Bee Sting by Paul Murray, 4 stars, really enjoyed that one. So the one I'm getting rid of is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. This is one that I looked it up on Goodreads to figure out if it was YA or not, and in the process saw a lot of Goodreads reviews saying it was a colonizer romance. That's just not something that I need in my life, so gonna rehome that one. Girl, up next is The Queen by Nick Cutter. I don't like reading about bugs, and this one has a lot of bugs, so not for me. Next is The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong. This is one that I've just heard is very, very spicy, and that the spice is kind of the main point of the book, and that's just not my main focal point in my reads. I'm okay with spice, but that's just not what I want the number one plot point to be. Next is I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. This is one I read first couple pages and I didn't really feel sucked in. And since then I've also read Sadie by Courtney Summers, which I know is really highly regarded, and that one was just okay for me. So given that this is another YA book by that author, I feel like even if I did read it, it would probably sit around a 3-star, and I'd rather give it to a home where someone's going to get more out of it. Next is We Love to Entertain by Sarah Strohmeyer. This is a domestic thriller, and I'm very particular about my domestic thrillers. I think I like my thrillers just less suburban. So I just didn't think this one would be for me. Next is a book that makes me a little bit sad to part with because it has sentimental value, but ultimately I just really didn't like it and I would rather rehome it. And that is Secret Identity by Alex Segura. This was the very first book that I ever won in a Goodreads giveaway, and I finally read it this year, and it's been probably my most disappointing read of the year so far because it was so highly anticipated. I just found that it bit off a little bit more than it could chew, and therefore plot elements didn't feel evenly paced. And I also just felt like the female characters for a book that revolved around so many female characters were really two dimensional, really just flat and surface level. Some positives about this book is that the author is originally a comic book creator. It does have some really cool comic book art, and in the audio version, all of the visual sounds that you get in the comic books, there are sound effects for. So I think that's a really cool element of the audiobook. And if other books by him have more positive reviews, I would maybe check them out again. I just don't know that I would purchase them. Next is The Great American Everything by Scott Glodden. I'm just not a big short stories person. I'm a little bit picky about short story collections, and this one just didn't jump out to me after giving it a shot. Next is I Am Homeless If This Is Not My Home by Lori Moore. Again, just a book. I read a little bit of it, couldn't get into it, would rather rehome it. Next is Emily Forever by Maria Navarro Scaringer. This one, I honestly don't remember what it's about. The back says that Em is 19 and pregnant, and her boyfriend Pablo has gone out to sort something out and hasn't returned. Her mother, who raised Emily alone, moves into the little apartment to help. It's short and sweet. I think I read the first few pages and didn't really jive with it. So, same as the rest, moving it on to a new place. Next is Garden of Earthly Bodies by Sally Oliver. I didn't really vibe with this one when I picked it up. And then I saw a video with, I think it was Plant Based Reader is her at. I'll put it on the screen down below. She did a reading vlog reading the highest and lowest rated books on her TBR, and this was the lowest rated. And I find that she has really poignant reviews that I tend to agree with, and she disliked it, so that was kind of a second sign that this one wouldn't be for me. Next is Kitten Tits. This is another book with a child as the narrative voice, and I read the first couple pages, didn't really jive with the narrative voice. This is one that I actually purchased in high school, and I don't know why, because I didn't read literary fiction or short stories in high school. So I genuinely don't know why I purchased this, but it was Get in Trouble by Kelly Link. I reread the first short story a few times throughout my life trying to get into the book as a whole, and I pushed through and read a couple more short stories, and none of them really did anything for me. So guess what? Moving it on. Next is another tiny one. This is The Minotaur at Calle Lanza by Zito Madu, and this is a pandemic book from the back, and I'm just not really into that. I started it, and again, didn't get into it. Plus, I knew that it was going to be about the pandemic. So, another one that's not for me. Next is The Silk Road by Catherine Davis. This one started with a weird yoga class, and I was really confused, and it has a really, really low average Goodreads rating. And from the reviews, I could tell that I was going to rate it pretty similarly to the low raters. I didn't think I was going to be an outlier. Next is Mammoth by Eva Balthazar. I read Boulder by this author, and I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I did enjoy that one. and I started this one, and this one just wasn't for me. It gave the vibe of a young woman making repeatedly bad and messy decisions, which is ironic because I love The Guest by Emma Cline, which is about a young woman making repeated bad and messy decisions. So I'm not sure why this one didn't work for me, but I did get 25% of the way into this one. You could argue I should have just pushed through because it's so short. Yeah, I just wasn't for me. This next one is one that I did purchase that I was really excited about, and I just felt kind of let down because I purchased it having heard nothing about it before. I went to one of my favorite local bookstores on Independent Bookstore Day last year, and they had an aura reader there who took your picture, told you your aura, and then they had a whole table of different book selections based on the color of your aura. I was a red. I don't know what that means, but I don't really remember. But I was a red, and I picked this book up. I had never heard of it before, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It matches my aura. And then I didn't like it, which I should have predicted because I think out of the 4 books on the table for red, I disliked 2 of them, and the other one I wasn't interested in. So I should have known that just the red aura recommendations weren't going to work for me. But anyway, that is Dead in Long Beach, California. This one has a premise of being like a messy thriller. She discovers that her brother has committed suicide, and she steals his phone and pretends to be him. And I think that that is still a really interesting premise for a plot forward book. However, this was like a philosophy forward book. There were so many tangents about characters or mindsets or philosophy or questions about life, and that just didn't really work for me. I was in this for the plot on the dust jacket, not for the philosophy. So this one was a DNF as well, which really bums me out because I spent money on this. And then this last one, I was gifted from a friend. This is another domestic thriller, Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. It's another domestic thriller where I started it and I just wasn't really into it. I'm not always the biggest fan of rich people being messy thrillers. For some reason, that is a story arc that just doesn't hit very commonly for me. So this is the last book that I will be unhauling. I'm going to take this stack with me, deposit these in some little free libraries, and then I don't have to move them. If any of the books in this stack you feel really passionately that I should give another chance or I should still read, let me know in the comments, but just know that the time this video is live, they will not be in my home anymore, so I'll just have to get them from the library instead.